If you are spiritual, man, have I got some bad news for you. And this is nothing to do with science or proving things or disbelief or anything. I'm a little bit of a spiritual person myself, and we'll get into that later, how and why exactly. But there's some really, really bad news that is kind of disproving a lot of why people think that spirituality is going to help them. And in fact, it's the opposite. It's usually people becoming spiritual is going to make it even worse for them to actually get to the goals they want. In today's episode, we're going to look at how, why, and how to not let that happen to you. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Exaltify Me podcast. I'm your host, Nenad Leonart, and I'm here to dive deep into depths of human psychology, into self-help, into self-transformation, and to learn how to have a better life, get rid of all the emotional baggage, stop doing what doesn't work, and get into this new place in life where everything is wonderful and kind of easy and kind of just a life worth living. Now, to be able to be doing that, we have to a little bit get into work and do a few uncomfortable things and do some stuff that we have pushed away for so many years or just haven't looked at. And in this podcast, we're looking at these different themes, how you can go on if you're stuck somewhere, maybe how to continue. And it's meant to be as a resource, like use it as a resource for you sometimes when you get stuck or when you maybe start lacking motivation. Now, I work a lot with people one-on-one in groups. I've been doing this for a couple years now as a coach myself, as somebody who's training others, who's helping them become their better self. And I've been into this, at this point, more than half of my life. I've been learning about psychology. I've been learning about how people think, how they develop. I bought my first self-help book with 15 years old. And since then, it's kind of been just a journey of self-discovery, of finding out how we tick, and also of actually creating a better life for myself. Now, I've tried out many different things and seen where it takes me, how to get there. So I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, there's been a development in the last couple of years, in the last decades. We as humanity, we have more access to good resources. We have just more awareness in general, everything that's going on. We're better off in many regards than we were a couple years ago. So my goal is to use everything that I've learned and make it accessible and available to you so you can actually work on yourself and choose the right path for you. Having said that, I also do one-on-one coachings. I do work with people in person. So if you ever feel like you want to reach out to me, you want to talk to me, make sure to do so. I'm very accessible. We'll have a chat. We'll see how you are, where you are, and then how it goes from there. Now, today, it's all about spirituality and kind of the huge trap that it's created and why so many people are falling into that trap. You can imagine it like a big billboard that is scamming people all over, and people are kind of looking at the billboard and then they know, well, I have these guys from my youth that have bought it, and I think they think it's fine, like they're hanging around there, and I know these other people, so let's go and check that out. And then they go and check it out, and the product is shiny and nice and everything, and then they buy it. And once they bought it, they kind of have to stick with it because it's too weird to say, oh no, this is not for me maybe, or oh no, I might have done a mistake. Maybe it's not that. But you do know that once people start going into more and more and more beliefs, they kind of lose their mind a little bit. And that can be really scary. Now, today we're going to look at why this happens and how it happens, and how like these huge organizations, these huge religions, and everybody else out there was able to recruit these people. Like, look at the Islamic State. They were recruiting people all over the world to go there and fight for their cause. We have a lot of movements also from Christianity. They're recruiting young people. We have so many different sects. We have so many different other movements, and they all are providing something to people that they don't find in their everyday life. And that's the reason why they are flocking to them, even though, objectively speaking, some of them are pure evil. Right? We know that. We know that it's weird stuff going on, and yet people go there. So why is this happening? And why is this happening on a really large scale with everybody who goes into spirituality? I would say that 1 out of 100 people that goes into spirituality or does a spiritual practice is quote unquote doing it right. And the rest kind of got duped into doing something that's just not good for them or anybody in their life in the long term. To prove to you that I know what I'm talking about, you probably know that I have a career as a musician as well, and a big part of that career was actually playing as an organist in churches. So I've been doing that over 10 years now. Every weekend I would go there, I would see these people, and I would listen, I would see them interact with each other. And now many of them are really, really decent people. Many of them are like really, really good people. And I didn't grow up with any kind of religion. So I got to have a deep dive, like a really interesting analysis of Christianity and everything that's going on. Now here's my unbiased opinion, okay? You can have your beliefs, you can have your opinions. This is important to me. I do believe that we have something that is sort of a creator. Not necessarily like something supernatural or whatever, but there's like a source, there's an energy for all the experiences that I had in my life that are truly spiritual. And I've had like these meditations, revelations, and so on. So I know that there's something out there or everywhere or in us. Like, I do believe that. I also do believe that the words that we are using as human beings to describe that, they are very limited and they are very almost incapable of describing this exact experience. And so we have them weird words that are not able to describe this, and then people start retelling that story on top of each other, and then you have like several generations of retelling the same story till it gets written down, for example, let's say in the Bible. And I find it to be extremely curious, just looking at Christianity, that you have like the words of Jesus that have a very different strength and energy behind them. And then you have all the rest that's like written down from the prophets, from the apostles, from everybody else. Like, and there is a discrepancy, and you'll see that nobody wants to hear that, but like the actual guy who was supposed to be the Son of God, which, by the way, I think it's true. I think we're all children of God or this being. It's not just one, it's all of us. Once that you understand that what he was saying was just describing these kind of spiritual wisdoms and trying to put it in words so people understand, you'll see that everything else that's created, like church, like all the constructs, like all the prayers and so on, that's not something that was taught by this person who was enlightened, right? There's a lot of constructs that we as people put in place, or actually not we as people, but people 2,000 years ago, just so they could make sense of certain things, just so they could structure it, so they can create power, so they can maximize their power, so they can spread it, and so on and so on. Like, there's many things that we could talk about here, but today I want to focus really, really especially on why this is happening. Obviously, it's an instrument of power. Like, you can use spirituality, you can use religion to instrumentalize people. And you can do with those people whatever you want, because once you start selling them on your truths, they stop to see like the real truth. They're not paying attention to what is happening in the world anymore because they have like the bias already happening to them, right? They already have this filter in front of their eyes, so they're looking at the world through the stories that you told them. And that is how you can actually get people to follow a religion blindly. And it's getting more and more extreme. You know these examples, right? When it gets more and more extreme, like people get into like a sect, for example, and it seems very harmless and it's just like a get together, and then it's just getting more and more intense. And at a certain point, they all have like uniforms, or they shave their heads, or whatever it's going on, it's happening. And usually you will see people give up their identities completely to be part of that religion. Now, why is this happening? The reason for me, now that I've been doing a lot of trauma work, the reason is so obvious. It is just people who were fucked up from their childhood in certain ways, where they need a substitute, like a religion, like a sect, like spirituality, that is going to give them, okay, it's going to be an external thing, that is going to give them feelings that they are not able to create inside of them, right? When I work with people and we ask, like, hey, what are you looking for? Like, what are you searching for in life? They could say, I'm looking for respect. I'm looking for appreciation. As soon as they say that, I know that inside of them, they don't have respect for themselves and they don't appreciate themselves. Like, that's always the thing. What you seek in the external, you don't have inside of you. What you're looking for outside, you are lacking on the inside. And guess why you're lacking it? Because you never got it in the first place. As a kid, you needed that. That was your unmet need. And your parents were just unable to fulfill that need. They either weren't there physically, or maybe they were unavailable emotionally. Whatever it is, like, you have this burning need and you don't get it met. So, but you needed it from your parents, right? Because their job is kind of to give us what we need so we can learn how that feels, how it is to give yourself that, and so that later in life you can give it to yourself. But we don't get that chance. We don't get to learn that. So what is happening? It's happening that we kind of get fucked when we're small. And then we kind of start growing up and we're still having these unmet needs because we never know how to fill that hole. we've never been taught. Nobody gave us an example. And then as we go through life, that's a huge pain inside. And that pain is screaming. It just wants to get fed. It just wants the attention. It wants the love. It just needs whatever it needs. And people have figured out that you can put a religion in its place, or you can create spiritual practices, or you can let people believe something, that they are becoming part of something bigger, that they are going to be destined for greater things. And so always when this is kind of happening, they are finally finding a substitute for the problem that they have within. Now, is this substitute going to solve it? Is the substitute going to make them feel better? Well, they will feel better because they are now in an illusion that there's something external that's giving them the love, the attention, the needs that they never had met. Right? But it is not a permanent solution to the problem, because it's making them really, really attached to that solution. So once they get, let's say, discarded out of a religious group, they've lost it all. It's an addiction because it's not a permanent solution. It's just something that's constantly filling the hole, but the hole is still there. And the hole, because it's there, it's going to fuck with your brain. And it's going to create all different kinds of illogical turns just so you can still hold on to what you want to hold on to, and you can still believe what you want to believe in. I am 100% sure you know of people like this in your life, where you've seen them get quote-unquote religious or quote-unquote spiritual, and they kind of lose themselves in it. It's because it's a substitute for their parents. They're finally, in their heads, getting the love that they never got as kids. So this is basically like their parents supercharged. It's a really, really sad reality to have people be lost, be completely devoid of any kind of inner concept of taking care of oneself, so that they need to find an external body like a religion, like a spiritual group, like something that they can belong to, so they can finally get their feeling inside. And the sad reality is that most of those that go in there, they will never be able to get back out. Because all these structures, all these religions, spiritual kind of constructs, all of them have figured out, hey, when we get people to come to us and we give them what they want, we can ask of them what we need. And why would they be interested into giving away their power? Why would they be interested into not asking for whatever they need, be it money, be it other forms of wealth, of possessions, of activity, right? So you have a lot of these situations where it's not really about helping. It's a kind of, when you look at it, a very one-sided deal, where you have addicts on one side and somebody profiting on the other. And the brutal thing is, it's called, well, this is the basis of life, right? This is all the questions answered. This is everything that we need to have happen. This is happening. Now, again, there are spiritual truths. There are people who are actually enlightened. There are people who are having these experiences. I know, because I'm having them myself from time to time. And it's a beautiful thing to kind of be able to see and feel these other dimensions and to go into that. What I'm talking about here is like the construct of power, the construct of abuse, like structures that people have put into place so they can continue doing whatever they've been doing. And that is awful. That is awful. And if you are not able to see through the matrix, if you're not able to see that, what's happening, you're going to fall victim to it. So much in today's episode. Really tell me what you think. This is quite a limb to go out on. Nobody really wants to talk about these things. And yet I found it particularly enlightening, not in a spiritual sense, but just like in a psychological sense, to finally understand this is the reason why so many people flock to spirituality and why it actually doesn't work. This is the reason why we have all this weird shit happening, because people are just really in need. They're having a bad time, and this is something that is actually going to help them. My name is Nenad Leonart. I'm your host, and this is the Exaltify Me podcast. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, do so right now. Write a comment below or go follow me on social media. You can drop me a DM there or just send me an email. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. I'm looking forward to helping you with whatever you have going on. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can refer you to a friend or to somebody else who is really specialized with that kind of issue. Regardless, I thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.